welcome to Decoding Confidence. I'm your host, Advita Patel, a confidence and influence coach. And over the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to be digging into what confidence actually looks like in the workplace. Not the fake it till you make it stuff, but the real deal. So whether you're navigating tricky stakeholder conversations, trying to get your voice heard in the boardroom, or you're just trying to figure out how to back yourself when the imposter syndrome kicks in, this is your space. Enjoy this episode. In today's episode, I'm going to be answering some of the common confidence questions that have been submitted over the past few weeks following previous episodes. I've got around 20 minutes to answer some of them, so hopefully the answers will help you if you are struggling or suffering with the same things. So without further ado, I've got my questions here. The first question is from Stuart, and he said, when I was early in my career, I was really confident in my skills, but as I've grown in my career and become more senior, my confidence has plateaued and in some instances also dipped. Have you got any top tips or advice on what I can do to gain more confidence in the work that I am doing? Such a good question, Stuart, and thank you so much for sharing this with me. This is something that I hear quite a lot with my leaders that I work with and the coaches that I support, that as they've grown in their career, their confidence has taken a hit much more than when they were in their early careers or when they were just starting out. The thing about when you're just starting out, your skills and your value is easily measurable. Like, for example, if you're not any good with Excel spreadsheet, you'll go off and do training in Excel. And then the more you use it, the better you get. And you can demonstrate your worth and value by the experiences you're having with Excel, for example. But as you grow in your role and you become a leader or a manager, those habits and behaviors are very difficult to measure in terms of confidence. So things like skills like influence, impact, judgment, how you manage crisis, how you manage ambiguity, it's difficult to measure that. So sometimes you're not certain on whether you're doing the right thing or not. And that can really influence how our confidence is measured. So when you're growing in your career, you are generally in a place of flux at times because you don't know whether you're making the right decision or not. So in Decoding Confidence, the book that I've written, I talk about how confidence isn't a fixed trait, it's a learnable skill. And one of the most powerful things you can do, as it's a learnable skill, and especially as you're growing in your mid to senior level career, is to review what is working well, because I guarantee it's much more than what you're giving credit for. So what I mean by that is recording and noting and reflecting on some of the things that have worked well for you, some of the things that maybe haven't gone as well, and some of the things you're going to improve on, because you need to demonstrate this through action. Now, I am a terrible journaler. Like, I'm not very good at journaling at all. But one thing that does work well for me is on a Friday, I will voice note myself and share things that have worked really well and things that could definitely be better. And that's really helped me understand my progression and kept my confidence fairly sustainable. And that's the key thing about this, by the way. Confidence is all about how much trust you have in your ability and how much trust you have in others. And as you get more senior in your role, you're less likely to get that kind of positive feedback that tells you that you're doing good work. And it shouldn't happen, but it does happen, unfortunately. So you're going to have to back yourself in this, and you're going to have to make sure that you're learning and growing, but also recognizing some of the value and contributions that you're adding. So reflect and log what is working well and what isn't working as well. And make sure that you lean in on your learning circle as well, or your personal board of directors, and sense check some of your methodologies that you have deployed in your work and make sure that they're delivering the results that you want to deliver as well. But the key thing as you grow in your role is that reflection time. And as the more senior we tend to get, the less reflection time we build in, which can really knock our confidence and our self-esteem and bring that self-doubt that you may be experiencing right now. Form a habit of logging the things that are working well, logging the things that are not working as well, and what you want to improve on, and see how you get on. I really hope that helps, Stuart. Let me know if you've got any follow-up questions to that. But those small steps will make a big difference. So the second question is an anonymous question, and it's about visibility. So they've said, I'm not very good at self-promotion and I don't like to be visible either, but I know it's needed if I want to progress in my career. Is there any way you can be visible and promote yourself without that selling that you have to do, this selling in quotes? So please, could you give me some top tips and advice on what I can do to make sure that I'm selling myself but not having to be overly visible? The thing is, it's about framing with this as well. If visibility feels quite performative, it's because we've conflated it often with self-promotion. That's not the same thing at all. In my empowerment chapter in my new book, Decoding Confidence, I have shared a story about a leader who was similar. They didn't want to be center of attention. They didn't want to sell themselves or be, make themselves into a bigger deal and perform for the organization. So we worked together about how they could show up more intentionally. And he started to show up more with volunteering for stretch projects and making sure that he received feedback and took action on that feedback if he felt that it was something that would help him thrive and grow. And within 6 months, people started to notice his intention, and that really helped him be noticed because he's been very mindful on how he contributed and what value he was bringing. And it wasn't about self-promotion. He completely decentered himself from what he was trying to do, and he genuinely thought about the value and the impact he wanted to make in the business. So it isn't about how do I get seen, it's more about what do I want to be known for. And when you anchor your presence to a perspective or a value, rather than your own kind of profile and what you want to gain that feels like selling, you're sharing a point of view that is more valuable. It's that consistency that will help you get noticed. It's that consistency of showing up and being impactful and having influence. You don't have to be loud to make a point. You don't have to be center of attention to be seen as credible or visible. So think about what you're doing to be intentional, think about the impact you want to have, and think about the value that you're bringing, and be very mindful about how you do that. It's not about self-promotion. It's not about shouting really loudly. That often doesn't have much substance. I hope that helps. If you've got any follow-up questions, let me know. The third question is from Lucy. So Lucy says, hi, Advita. Thank you so much for your podcast. You have really brightened up my Mondays with your feedback and thoughts on confidence. Well, thank you for listening, Lucy. I really do appreciate that. So Lucy has said, I have recently received a promotion. Well done, Lucy. Congratulations. But one of the things I really struggle with is recovering from setbacks and negative feedback. Every time I get told that I've done something wrong or haven't done something well, I spiral and really struggle to bounce back from it. Do you have any tips on how I can maintain my confidence and make sure that I don't spiral, because it's really impacting how I show up for myself? That is such a great question, Lucy. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So there are a couple of approaches I want to share with you on how you can do this well. And this is coming from lived experience from me, because I was somebody who took feedback so personally that I really procrastinated over it. I couldn't even sleep at night sometimes, and I took it personally every single time. And it really impacted me, and it stopped me showing up for myself, and it stopped me speaking up as well in some instances. So I decided that I needed to do something about this, and I practiced a couple of habits to help me out. So one of the first things I would say to you is it's really important to separate your setback from your identity. And this is something that I worked quite hard on. It's not a verdict on who you are or what you're capable of when you get this setback or feedback. And the most effective leaders I've worked with process it through a curiosity mindset rather than criticism. So what did this teach me rather than what does this say about me? And that isn't, by the way, bypassing accountability. It's preventing that procrastination I spoke about that can sometimes stall our recovery far longer than the setback itself. The other thing I would say is that we need to rebuild through action. And in the book, I talk about the learning habit, where I'm turning feedback into something that's useful rather than it being a spiral. And it is one of the hardest things I had to do, to be honest with you. But most important thing is practicing it, because confidence at the more senior level isn't restored by just sitting on it and procrastinating on it and worrying about it. It's taking ownership and it's taking accountability. There is some feedback that you just won't relate with, and that is absolutely okay. And you can discount that. I think sometimes we think just because somebody has given us some feedback, we have to pay attention to it. Challenge in that situation is, who is the feedback coming from? Are they someone that you trust? Are they someone credible? Are they someone that you value? And if the answer to those is no, then my advice is it's probably not feedback that's going to be useful for you, which is why I always kind of go on about your learning circle or your personal board of directors and being very careful about who you are surrounding yourself with. It's like what Brené Brown says, and she took it from Theodore Roosevelt, the president, that if you're not in the arena getting your kind of butt kicked alongside me, then it's probably not someone I need to listen to. Don't listen to the people in the cheap seats at all. So be quite careful about where that feedback is coming from. Obviously, if it's from someone who's got experience, who is your line manager, your leader, and they've been there and they understand and recognize some of the problems you may be facing, then yes, of course you want to listen to what they have to say, because you do want to be good at your job and you do want to do well and you do want to help the organization grow. But please remove it from your personality and don't take it personal. And it is really difficult. And this is coming from someone who found it difficult. I found it incredibly hard to remove the emotion out of setbacks and feedback. I think it's really important that we have sustainable confidence and we check back on our experience, the receipts we've collected over time, feedback, testimonials that remind us that actually we are good at what we do, and failure is only failure when you don't learn from it. And if you're learning from something, then that isn't failure, that's growth. And that's what I would say to you. So don't take it personally. Make sure that you're listening to feedback from people that you trust and people that you respect and people that are adding value. And if it's something that you're not learning from, then yes, of course, it may feel like a failure, but make sure there's always a learning opportunity there. I really hope that helped, Lucy. Let me know if you have got any follow-up questions, or if you're listening to this and that you relate to what Lucy asked in that question, but you want to know more around certain challenges or a specific problem that you've got, then by all means, please DM me. So the next question is about protecting energy. And this was, again, an anonymous one. So protecting your energy as you become more senior in role is becoming increasingly difficult, I believe. In my recent job, I am now responsible for quite a large team, and I have to admit I'm feeling quite tired and burnt out. And this is definitely knocking my self-esteem. Do you have any top tips or practical advice on how I can protect my energy and make sure that I am not burning out? Because I really do like my team and enjoy my job, and I want to enjoy the work that I'm doing. But right now, I can't say that I am. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. I think it's so important to admit when you're not feeling it and you can feel yourself on the cusp of burnout or you are in burnout. Burnout is really difficult to spot, and it's really important that you have the support around you and you recognize the signals around you as well when you are facing burnout, because once you're in that burnout spiral, it is hard. But I have got some practical tips that I can share with you, and I want you to remember that it's baby steps and it's taking one step at a time to make sure that you're not overwhelming yourself and leaving yourself with lots of things to do. And I want you to be very careful and conscious of what I'm about to say to you. It's not about you doing it straight away and all of it together, but finding the things that work for you. So energy is one of the chapters that I've written about and is part of the Believe framework. And I put that habit in for a reason, because it holds all the other habits together. Because if you don't have energy, you can't practice any of the other habits well. And I want to make sure that the stress spiral and the burnout and the chronic strain is avoided where possible. So when self-doubt starts to creep in, like you're feeling, and you're feeling that you're not performing and you end up working even harder, you're just in this cycle of hell, really. So as I said, there's a couple of tips I want to share with you, and I want you to test them out first and do it slowly. So one of the challenges is that a lot of people face is not having recovery rituals between meetings or conversations. And I'm not talking about taking like 3-4 hours off. I'm talking about 5 minutes in between meetings, going for a walk, deep breathing, taking yourself away from the screen. Really simple, practical things that we all know we should do, but we don't do. But we need to do this because our brain needs to reset. And if our brain is not resetting and we're going from one meeting to another meeting to a project, you're not allowing your brain to rest. Our human brain is not conditioned to work consistently for the length of time that we work right now. So put those boundaries in place, catch those early warning signals as early as you possibly can, and make sure that you respect those boundaries. And also, I'm going to share with you a quick story, and it is come from when I worked quite a while ago now. It's fairly early in my career. I remember going to these meetings, and there used to be a woman that worked in this organization, and she was so good at putting boundaries in place. And I remember she used to walk into a meeting and she used to say, how do you want me to contribute to this meeting? What do you need from me? What value can I bring? And if the chair of that meeting couldn't answer her properly or effectively, she used to say, I'm going to leave this room because I don't think I can bring anything to the conversation, and I know my time can be used better elsewhere. But if there is anything else I can do for you, or you do think of something that you think where I can add value, then please invite me back again, and I'm more than happy to come along and share my thoughts and ideas with you. At the time, I was like, oh my goodness, like I used to like cringe in my seat because I was still in my recovering. I wasn't even recovering, actually. I was such a people pleaser. And the thought of like saying that to somebody just really made me cringe. But do you know what I respected about this person? She was so clear on her boundaries. And she did it with respect, by the way. She wasn't throwing a dummy out the pram. She wasn't shouting loudly. She wasn't doing any of that stuff. She just said it calmly, and she was really effective, and she was assertive. And she was polite, and people respected her for that. And in fact, what happened and started to happen, people started to be very clear about the contribution they needed from her in that room, because they knew that she didn't like time wasters. And she's very much open about her note about time being a commodity. Like, she's very big on that. She say it all the time, like, time is a commodity and we have to respect it, because we're all very busy people and we don't have time sitting in rooms all day talking about something that could have been done in an email. She wasn't as blunt as that, but that's what generally people say. She definitely, she's sitting there, come in that room, what contribution do you want me to make? What value do you think I can bring? If the chair couldn't answer, or people in the room couldn't answer it, she said, right, think about it and invite me back next time. I loved her for that. And I've carried that. I mean, I wasn't bold or brave enough to say that for a very long time after that. But it's really important to ask that question. So if you're invited to meetings and it's back to back and you're not adding any value and you're not contributing the way you want to, ask the question, what is it that you need from me? What impact do you want from me? What support can I give you? And if they can't answer that question, then you probably shouldn't be in that room. So I hope that helps in terms of the tip on protecting your time and putting those boundaries in place, especially around meetings and things like that. And the other thing I would share with you is keeping the promise to yourself and making sure that you are signing off on time, or you're giving yourself a bit of a break in the evenings and you're not logging on at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. And again, a really practical, simple tactic, but you have to stay true to yourself. And you need to make sure that if you are logging in, you take that time back, because it's really important that you don't allow those boundaries to be crossed, because no one will respect them if you cross them yourself. But put in those recovery rituals, put those boundaries in place, be mindful about how much time is being used that way you're not adding value, and make sure that you're advocating for yourself and make sure that you're supporting yourself, because if you're not, you can't expect anyone else to. I think that is all the time we have for questions. I really hope those answers have helped you and evoked some thinking in how you're feeling with your confidence and the confident workplace that you are working in. If you've got any further thoughts, any further questions, or any follow-up questions based on what I've shared in this episode today, then please DM me on any of the socials, or you can email me to advita@decodingconfidence.com, or you can send me a message, like I said, on LinkedIn or places like that. I'm normally hanging about in those spaces. And before you go, I would love you to leave me a short review of the podcast. If you found any of the episodes helpful, I would be so appreciative if you could take a few minutes and just leave your thoughts on wherever you listen, whatever platform you listen on. I think all of them have an opportunity for you to score it or leave a review. I would be so grateful. And if you don't have time for a review right now, then then please do forward on this episode or previous episodes to somebody that you think would find it helpful or useful. When you're a small podcaster like me, word of mouth is the biggest recommendation anyone can give, and it really helps the podcast be seen in places where I don't have a voice or I'm not as well known in that industry or that community. And finally, my book, Decoding Confidence, The 7 Habits of Confident Leaders, is available for pre-order. You can buy it from any online bookstore. If you want a personalized copy, so you want me to sign it, then you can come on to my website, decodingconfidence.com/book. I'll leave all of this in the show notes, by the way, and I'll make sure that I personalize that copy to you and send it over to you. But pre-orders is really important to authors because it lets the bookstores know that the book is popular, and fingers crossed, if it is popular, they may stock it in the actual bookshop, and that would be a dream come true for me. Thank you so much for all your help and support in promoting my book and promoting my podcast. I don't take it for granted, and I'm very, very grateful for your time and energy that you've taken out today to listen to my thoughts. Take care of yourself, and I will see you next week.